Hi everyone, my name is Amy Pearce and today we are going to be learning how to paint aspen trees. So I've got my green, a little bit of black, smooth. Okay, now I'm going to take some green without putting the black in it and I'm going to paint along the top there. And kind of blend it in. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing along the bottom. I'm going to use that same green. Use the same green. Mix it with some white. Just a good amount. We're going to stipple the top to create an effective leaves. So I've got the yellow ochre, and then I've got cadmium yellow medium, and we're going to put that right along the top there. So you can see this is a real sea sponge, and it just gives you a lot of really nice textures that are not uniform, not manufactured, and it's perfect for creating foliage. And we're going to dip it half in the yellow ochre and half in the cadmium yellow, and we're just gonna get that right on the sponge there. So you can see it like that. Now we're just going to lightly dab across the top so you get the green showing in the background. Okay, so now that we've got this, we're going to do the same thing to the bottom, only we're going to use red. We're still going to use the yellow ochre. So put more of the yellow ochre, and this time put red. We want plenty of red. And then, okay, now we're going to let this dry. Okay, so we've got the background painted. We've got foliage on the top that's going to show through the trees, foliage on the bottom that's going to show through the tree trunks, I should say. Now let's start with some yellow ochre. And I'm just going to squeeze it right there on my palette. Now I'm going to start with this brush, and we're going to make smaller, we're just going to do lines. Now of course, the nice thing about tree trunks is that they're not perfectly straight up and down. So I've got that one. We're just doing very thin ones because these are going to be the trunks in the background, and those of course will look thinner than the trunks in the foreground. So let's just do a couple here. We need some white for the background ones. We're not going to do too much to them, but let's put some white over there. I like to make them a little bit more white in the middle and then kind of fade into the foliage on the top and the bottom. Okay, now do that all along the way. Now let's get some black, and I'm going to take my really tiny fine point brush, and we're going to make the little stripes and holes, but on the smaller background tree trunks. We're not going to do too much of it, we just want to give a hint. So maybe we put like a dot and pull a line through it. Pull a line through it. Kind of do that all the way down. Okay, so I'm done with the background trunks, tree trunks. Let's let that dry, and then we'll put more tree trunks, thicker ones, in front of it as soon as it's dry. So now that that's dried, we're going to paint the foreground trunks. And we're just going to do pretty much the same thing we just did, but with a little bit more care to embellish. But not too much embellishment, because this is a simple picture, simple painting, but we want the trees' trunks to be thicker. So maybe you can make them all different thicknesses. So some twice the size of the back, 3 times. You know, we just want to look like we just want it to appear like we're looking back through the trees into a whole forest, not just a line of trees, right? Now these ones we're going to take to the top of the painting, as opposed to the smaller ones which we just faded into the top, right? But we're not going to bring them all the way into the bottom. Okay, so the bottom of the trunks are going to fade into the foliage, just like the smaller ones. Alright, let's paint some more. Now aspen trees, they tend to go pretty much up and down with little curves here and there, but not too many. So we want to keep that. You know, sometimes they go off a little bit, but not too much. Okay, so let's do the same thing we did with the white. Only this time we're going to be really careful to keep the white in the middle, because we're looking at this as if the sun is shining right on it. And so the middle of the trunk is going to look more white than the edges. So you want to make it look like it's fading into this yellow ochre on the side, because we don't want the trees to look too yellow. Okay, so you can see this. Hopefully you see a little dimension in there. When we keep the middle white, it makes the trunks look rounded, right? Okay, so once again, do that all along the way. Okay, now before these dry all the way, I let them dry a little bit. I'm going to do a trick with the texture right now, and what we're going to do before it dries all the way is you're going to get your stiff brush, kind of separate the bristles, and we're going to drag it across the trunk like this. A really simple technique. So you can see this is the one that I just did, and we'll do this one so you can watch close up. Drag the paint, pull some of the paint off, which is actually really nice. That didn't happen as much with the other one. Pull the paint across. Let it make its own texture. Okay, so now that we've let it dry, we are going to add the black notches and little stripes. I'm going to use the extra small fine point brush, and we're just going to use black right now. So we'll dip it in, get some on the brush, and then we're going to take it, we're going to start on the edges of the trees, and we're going to do a little swipes like this, and we're not going to bring them all the way to the other side, because we want to give the illusion of the highlighted tree in the middle. So do that all the way down. Again, not being too uniform. And then we're going to do that to the other side as well. Make some of them come in further than the others. Okay, now we're going to make the knots. We've made the little swishes, now we're going to make the knots. So we're just going to pick a few where we want. Okay, there's a knot there. Just draw little circles, or little half moon looking things, or, you know, the shape of an eye, kind of like that. Some are right in the middle. Some kind of creep up on the side right there. But these knots are what make aspens distinct, these stripes and knots. Okay, so do that to all of them. Okay, now that we've got all of the knots and black stripies painted, we're going to go in and we're going to highlight the knots so they stick out a little bit more. And I'll give you a close-up right now to show you exactly how we're going to do that. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to take white and our smallest fine point brush, and we're going to paint a little line right above each knot. Now this may feel like pretty tedious, and that's because it is, but it's worth it because when you're done, the knots will pop out so nicely. Now we're going to paint a few little branches up here at the top of the trees. And this is really easy, so take your smallest fine point brush and you're just going to take the white and make branches that come out. And just remember, there's no real rhyme or reason to branches. They kind of grow every which way. And so you can paint them in the same fashion. You've got branches coming out from branches, branches coming out from those branches. Okay, now that we're done painting the branches, we are going to do one last layer on the top and bottom of foliage. So we're going to start with the bottom, and I'm taking bright red paint and then yellow ochre, and I'm going to put it on my sponge. I primarily want the red, the bright red. Now remember, don't dab too light, we just want, or don't dab too hard, just very lightly. We want all the colors to show through. Oops. The yellow ochre should be on top. And we're going to just go over the bottoms of the tree branches. Not in a straight line, but kind of up and down. Don't go to the very bottom because we want that dark red to continue to be dark on the bottom. So you see, we are basically covering up where the bottoms of the trunks come. Okay, I'm going to take the same sponge we just used. It's still got a little red paint, and I'm going to wipe the majority of the red paint off. However, we do want a little bit of it left on there underneath. Now we take, I've got yellow ochre here and the cadmium yellow, and we're going to try to do kind of equal portions. Now, we're not going to do too much on the top here because we want the focus to be on the trunks, but we're going to go over a little bit on the top, just like we did the bottom. Okay, we just stippled the top with the yellow. Now we're going to take the residue of the yellow. We're not going to get any more on there, but there's a little left on the sponge still, and I'm going to take it across the very top layer of our red foliage on the bottom, just to give it a little extra highlight. Maybe I will give it a little extra yellow. Put a little extra yellow on my sponge. I don't want too much because I want the focus on the bottom to be on our lovely red foliage, but it's kind of nice to have a little yellow on there. Alright, my friends, we are done. Here is your aspen forest.